let's go to carboxylic acid. Carboxylic acid, actually there's not much to study, because carboxylic acid তোমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করবে যে how is carboxylic acid formed. We know that it primary alcohol gets oxidized to aldehyde, aldehyde gets oxidized to carboxylic acid. And what are the reactions of carboxylic acid? Carboxylic acid reacts with oxygen to give us carbon dioxide and water. Oxidation with O2 gives carbon dioxide and water. Actually, oxidation, not combustion with O2. Combustion with O2. And then with alcohol, what does carboxylic acid give? With alcohol, what does it give?
Ester.
It gives us ester. And third, with PCl5, এটা তোমাদের মাঝে মাঝে চলে আসে, so এটা আমরা let's study this time. So carboxylic acid can react with PCl5 to give us acyl chloride. So basically কিছুই না, it's CH3 CH2 C double bond OH reacts with PCl5. You know what's going to happen. The OH is going to go away and it then converts to CH3 CH2 C double bond OCl. And you might ask, why do we do this? To make it more reactive. Carboxylic acid by nature is not very reactive. Acyl chlorides are much more reactive than carboxylic acid. So in order, এটা যেমন একটা alcohol, we studied alcohol, right? And এই একই জিনিস, if you had a benzene ring, that we call it a phenol. Okay, so মানে you don't need it for AS, but the reason I'm teaching is যে alcohol would react with carboxylic acid, but phenol does not react with carboxylic acid. So এজন্য, to make phenol react with carboxylic acid, first we convert carboxylic acid into an acyl chloride, and then we can react it with an phenol. Phenol reacts with an acyl chloride, but not a carboxylic acid. So if you need to make a carboxylic acid more reactive, you can convert it into an acyl chloride. Our number 4 is reduction of carboxylic acid. Reduction of carboxylic acid. So you tell me, if you remember the flow chart, carboxylic acid can go down to form what?
Aldehyde.
Aldehyde can then further go down to form
Alcohol.
So reduction of alcohol to form reduction of carboxylic acid to form alcohol.
Sir,
Yeah. বলো।
আবার ketones কি alcohol form করতে পারবে?
হ্যাঁ।
আচ্ছা।
But oigula will study in the chapter aldehydes and ketones. Okay. So alcohol to, if you want to convert alcohol to carboxylic acid, what type of reagent do we use? Oxidizing agent, right? So if you're trying to reduce carboxylic acid to alcohol, what type of reagent would we use? We use reducing agent. Now, what are the examples of reducing agent? LiLH4, NaBH4, hydrogen plus nickel catalyst. These are the 3 reducing agents. Last class I told you primary alcohol gets partially oxidized to what?
So aldehyde.
Aldehyde, right? Aldehyde. And secondary alcohol gets oxidized to
Ketone.
ketone. Aldehyde and ketones together are known as
Carbonyl compounds.
Carbonyl compounds. Very good. Carbonyl compounds. So carbonyl compounds are functional group. Functional group is C double bond O. If it's an aldehyde, it's a C double bond O with a H and with the R group. R group can be any alkyl group or anything else. Not a matter of concern for us. কারণ আমাদের our main concern in the functional group, and ketone is R C double bond O R prime. So if a C double bond O is bonded to two R groups, it's a ketone. If it's bonded to one H and one R group, it's an aldehyde.
Sir, what does R prime mean?
R prime means that these two are different functional groups. It could be same or it could be different.
Sir, R alkyl group na?
Alkyl group, yeah.
So functional group is C double bond O.
C double bond O, yeah. So Amra, last class I told you that the most important is alcohol, right? So alcohol can become aldehyde,
and then it
Yeah.
becomes carboxylic acid.
and it can then become carboxylic acid. Alcohol can also be ketone. So difference key, primary alcohol will become aldehyde, secondary alcohol will become ketone. Acha. Aldehyde or ketone, mane in carbonyl groups can be converted into nitrile
Cyanide.
by the addition of cyanide, and then nitrile can be converted into amines. Okay, sir. Acha. So physical properties, again, I'll not be teaching physical properties. Tumra already jano. Chemical properties. So chemical properties tumra already jano. Je reduction. So aldehyde can be reduced to form alcohol. Ketone can be reduced to form alcohol. So reduction with LiAlH4 or NaBH4. Aldehyde or ketone gets converted to alcohol.
Alcohol.
So redoxe তোমাদেরকে আমি বলেছিলাম, if you remember, যে four criteria of reduction. একটা হলো number 1 হলো gain of electron, number 2 reduction in the oxidation state, number 3 loss of oxygen, আর number 4 কি ছিল?
Something with hydrogen.
Gain of hydrogen, right? So এখানে দেখো যে if you have a aldehyde CH3 CH C double bond OH, this is ethanol. Ethanol gets converted into ethanol, CH3 C OH HH. What has been added?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. So দেখো এত মানে now finally you know that addition of hydrogen means reduction. Okay, with HCN plus KCN, carbonyl groups, carbonyl compounds are converted into nitriles. So we have a CH3, C double bond O. This is ethanol. You add a hydrogen cyanide with trace of KCN or NaCN, anything.
So KCN ki catalyst.
Catalyst. Catalyst. we get CH3, CO minus, CNH. Then again, CH3, COH, CNH. So this gets reduced to OH. And since this was a double bond, it has now broken down into a single bond. একটা bond to free. There's one bond which is free. There, a CN comes in. What is the name of this mechanism?
Nucleophilic addition.
Nucleophilic addition. Nucleophilic addition. Mechanism of nucleophilic addition. So already we know that let's take a ketone or aldehyde, whatever you want to take. Let's take a R group. Let's take a R prime group. This is a ketone. So we know that oxygen is what? Very electronegative. Electrons are pulled by oxygen. Making this what? A
Partly
carbocation, right?
cation.
And this is obviously negative. Double arrow mane ki? Double arrow mane he's trying to pull both the electrons. Free radical আমরা কি করি? We always take a semi arrow or half arrow. Why? Because there's just one electron involved. এখানে it's a double bond. It's a pi bond. Pi bond, how many electrons are involved? 2 electrons are involved. And both the electrons are being pulled by oxygen. So that's why it's a double-headed arrow.
Sir, এটা কি খালি কিটোনের জন্য?
Same aldehyde ketone, same reactions. ওরা হলো they're like twin brothers, right? They have the same characteristics. So since this becomes a carb, so তার আগে কি হয়? NaCN plus H2SO4 ধরো। It becomes Na2SO4 plus
HCl.
HCl. This HCN breaks down into H plus and CN minus. So this CN minus তোমাদের একবার বলেছিলাম যে now the carbon has two extra electrons. How? So we know that carbon has 4 electrons and it has triple bond with nitrogen. So how many electrons does it still have left? 1. আর এই যে হাইড্রোজেন সায়ানাইড, হাইড্রোজেন has lost 1 electron to this cyanide. তাহলে কি হলো? There is another electron extra. So now they have what? They have a pair of electron, right? So তোমার যদি একটা negative charge থাকে and if you have an extra pair of electron, what do you call them?
Anion.
Nucleophile. So this nucleophile then attacks this carbon. It becomes a carbon with the R group, with the R prime, with a cyanide and a O minus. Why is it O minus? Because oxygen has a double bond যে ছিল, a double bond, what did they have? They had an extra pair of electrons. Who's taking it away?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. And then the free hydrogen ion then reacts with what? It reacts with the free oxygen to become OH and CN.
Catalysts are supposed to remain unchanged. So এখানে তো NaCN টা react করতেছে।
আমি তো তোমাকে বললাম, this is an imaginary reaction. This is just an way of understanding how HCN can be produced. But NaCN here remains unchanged. NaCN, basically, what it does is, so তোমার hydrogen cyanide, it's not an ionic compound. Hydrogen cyanide is not an ionic compound. Neither is a strong acid. But if you can form a cyanide ion is a good nucleophile. So what happens is hydrogen cyanide dissociates very poorly. Right? So you take NaCN. NaCN is an ionic compound. So ionic compounds fully dissociate into Na plus and Cn minus. So এখান থেকে first NaCN breaks down into Na plus and Cn minus, and hydrogen ion, this breaks down into hydrogen ion and cyanide ion. But if this is 100%, this is just 5%. So what happens? There's an accumulation of sodium ion. So sodium ion then reacts with the remaining cyanide ion. এখান থেকে যে cyanide ion-টা form হচ্ছে, what is happening? It's using up this cyanide. What are you left with? Hydrogen ion. So equilibrium, if you have studied equilibrium, we know that when the concentration of the products decrease, the reaction tries to increase the concentration, or the reaction would try to prevent the change. And it will also try to increase the concentration of hydrogen ion. So তখন আরো বেশি বেশি dissociate হয়. But at the end of the reaction, NaCN remains unreacted or remains unchanged.
Okay, sir, বুঝছি।
So we take HCN as the reagent, and we take traces of NaCN as a catalyst. So at the end of the reaction, we get back the NaCN. It could be NaCN or it could be KCN. They act as a catalyst. So when you have an R prime and OH and a CN, if you add dilute acid, dilute H2SO4 or dilute HCl, the cyanide gets converted into carboxylic acid. So with a cyanide or a nitrile group, if you add a dilute acid, it gets converted into carboxylic acid. Now, we got reduction of reduction, and then we studied about what happens with HCN, and then we know that after earlier a ketone reacts, it forms a nitrile. Nitrile then can be oxidized to carboxylic acid. Anything else? No, nothing else. So now we need to know how do we differentiate. So how do we test for a carbonyl group? Test for a carbonyl group. You need to add 2,4-DN to each. 2,4-DN. This is the test for the presence of a carbonyl group. So if there is a carbonyl group present, the color is gonna form the color changes from colorless to a orange precipitate. So what happens? Etar pura form is 2,4 dinitrophenyl hydrazine. If there's a carbonyl group, it gets converted to 4 dinitrophenyl hydrazone. This was hydrazine, this is hydrazone. So 2,4-dinitrophenyl hydrazine looks like what? There's a benzene ring. Where there's a 2,4-dinitro. Nitro means NO2. So there's a substitution in two groups, 2 and 3 and 4. 2,4-dinitrophenyl hydrazine. So HN H2N. এটার সাথে if you add a carbonyl group, this portion is going to react with this portion. It's going to react with this portion. And then form what? NO2 remains the same. NO2 remains the same. NH gets bonded to the N, is AN, double bonded to the carbon R prime. So what goes away? This H2 and this O goes away. So plus water. So this is known as 2,4-dinitrophenyl hydrazone. This gives you an orange precipitate. This is not a distinguishing point between aldehyde and ketone. This is just to test for the presence of a carbonyl. This test can be given by both aldehyde and ketone. So now we'll test to distinguish between aldehyde and ketone. Distinguish between aldehyde and ketone. We can distinguish it in two ways: Actylophelings reagent The other one is, sorry, tolerance-টাই আগে করি আমরা। একটা হলো tolerance reagent, আর একটা হলো Fellings reagent। Fellings reagent। So tolerance reagent is basically, sorry, acidified nitrate, ammonical silver nitrate. Ammonical silver nitrate. So to me, just remember, it is a silver ion. So when you have an aldehyde, what is aldehyde? CH3, C double bond O, H. Plus, so it's, since it's ammonical, it is slightly alkaline.
Sir, ammonical মানে কি?
Base holo ammonia. Base holo ammonia. So aldehyde gets converted into a carboxylic acid. And the silver ion gets converted into silver. So popularly we call this the silver mirror test. The silver mirror test. পুরা টেস্ট টিউবে মানে সারাউন্ডিং, মানে এটাকে তুমি যদি, if you take this as a test tube, ওর চারপাশে সিলভার ডিপোজিট হয়ে যাবে, চারপাশে সিলভার ডিপোজিট হয়ে যাবে। This is like cross section, this is cross sectional. So tolerance reagent is only positive by aldehydes. So this gets oxidized to carboxylic acid, this gets reduced to silver. But can you convert ketone into a carboxylic acid?
No.
No, right?
No. So that's why ketone does not give a positive result with tolerance reagent, or it actually does not even react with tolerance reagent. Our Fellings reagent is copper sulfate solution. Copper sulfate solution. So copper sulfate solution এর color কি? Blue. So when you have an aldehyde, under alkaline conditions, it gives us a carboxylic acid, and this copper 2 changes into copper 1. What is the color of copper 1? Copper 1 solution, or copper 1?
Red.
It gives a red.
কেমন জানি brownish না?
Red. So Fellings reagent gives you a red precipitate. So actually it forms a Cu2O, copper 1 oxide, which is a red precipitate. So this is also only positive with aldehydes. So now listen carefully. If you want to test for the presence of a carbonyl group, mane aldehyde বা ketone, it could be anything, but if you just want to test for the presence of an carbonyl group, you will test with 2,4-DNPH. And if you want to now, once you have confirmed, there is a carbonyl group present. What's the next step? You have to distinguish whether there's an aldehyde or a ketone. So what do you use? You can either use a Tollens reagent or you can use a Fellings reagent. Tollens reagent will give you a silver precipitate. Our Fellings reagent will give you a copper 1 oxide precipitate or a red precipitate. So the color changes from blue to red.
For Tollens, it just gets silver. It becomes a mirror আর কি.
Now, another is a triiodomethane or a triiodomethane. Triiodomethane or iodoform test.
Sir, is this a new topic?
No. So this will give a positive result with only methyl ketones. Methyl ketone. So usually ওরা ketones সাথে দিবে, but there are some alcohol and aldehyde also. তাহলে এরা কারা কারা positive test কিসের সাথে দিবে? Positive with ethanol. কেন এথনলের সাথে দিবে সেটাও আমি বলে দিচ্ছি। এথনলে কি আছে? You have a CH3, you have a COH. So এটাকে তুমি যদি oxidize করো, what will you get? If you oxidize ethanol, what will you get?
Sir, aldehyde.
নাম কি? Ethanol. So দেখো ethanol কি? What is it? The ethanol also is a methyl ketone. So that's why ethanol will also give a positive test, although it's not a ketone. আচ্ছা, এখন তোমার কাছে আমি একটা CH3 C double bond O CH2 CH3. Acha, first of all, what is the name of this compound?
Ethoxyethane methane.
This is butanone.
Oh,
Butanone. So butanone এর মধ্যে which part will give a positive test?
Sir, left side.
Left side, AJ. This part will give you a positive test. But this part cannot give you a positive test. Cannot, because this is not methyl part. Eta ki ethyl part, right? There's 2 carbon on the right hand side, right? So it's not a methyl part, it's a ethyl part. So this will not give you a reaction. This part will only give you a reaction. So ethanol and all methyl ketones. Ethyl ketone হলে কিন্তু হবে না, it has to be methyl ketone. So basically কি হয় সেটা আমি বলে দিচ্ছি। So ধরো যে তোমার কাছে you have a CH3 CH2 C double bond O CH3. So which part will react?
left side.
The right side. The methyl ketone part will react. With this, when you add iodine and sodium hydroxide, this part breaks away. What are you left with? CH3, CH2, C double bond O, OH. And this part becomes what? What happens to the green part? This becomes a CHI3, which is the iodoform. and it gives you a pale yellow precipitate.